This is another one I think is a very hot topic. I love these. There's like a really funny, I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, but there's a funny, I was watching Seinfeld the other night in bed. Kramer tells Jerry to break his stereo because it's a write-off for the company and he can just send it in and they'll write it off and he'll get a free one. And this is like a very common, I think, misconception about write-offs when it comes to businesses and entrepreneurs in general. Like they assume they can just write off anything and they don't fully know what a write-off is. And they also don't fully understand that there's very clear-cut and very specific and very consequential guidance to what you can and cannot write off. So when it comes to agencies, I guess I'll just kind of quick fire some things at you and you can tell me if you can write them off or not, right? As a business, if I go out to dinner, and I pay with a company card, is that a tax write-off?
What is the business purpose of the dinner?
If I take out a business or if I take out my employees for dinner, right? 6 employees for happy hour and dinner, it's $1,000 check. Can I write that off?
Alcohol, no. The meal, yes. Yeah, we're assuming there's a business purpose there too, right? And I think to get to the heart of the question that you asked right before that, and then I'll shut up. But just because you pay with it or pay for it with a business card does not make it a write-off.
Yeah, I think my wife needs to hear that. She's under the assumption that, so let's real quick just define what a write-off is.
So a write-off is an expense that you would take on your tax return in order to reduce your taxable income. In other words, you were putting this expense against the revenue that you brought in, and then you were thus reducing your net income, because net income would be revenue minus expenses. So you're reducing your net income. You reduce your net income. What that means is that you pay less tax.
So essentially, in a nutshell, very layman's terms, if you can write off an expense, you're essentially saving 30% almost on that because you don't have to pay tax on that dollar, right?
Yeah, it depends on your tax rate.
Right. Okay. So if it is for business purposes, then you can write off the food, but not the alcohol. And this is one that flip-flop, because when I first got started, again, like I think meals and entertainment is something that all entrepreneurs are like, oh, there's a write-off, there's a write-off, there's a write-off. I can write it off. I'll go out to big expensive dinners. We're in Miami. People go to nightclubs, whatever, and they make it a business expense. It's a gray area for some people, right? And they write it off. I actually had found out that during COVID, it's T&E or M&E. They just made that 100% tax refundable. But that was like for the first time though. So up before that, it was not. Is that still, so basically what you said is that food for business purposes is a write-off, but alcohol and that type of entertainment are not, correct?
Yeah. So alcohol, not a write-off. Entertainment, that was changed in 2018 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed in like December of 2017. So that's when entertainment went away. And there was a big hullabaloo about that. Like, you know, the best example, sports tickets, right? No longer tax deductible. Entertainment, not tax deductible. And then during COVID, one of the stimulus bills included 100% expensing for meals, whereas it's generally only 50%. So if you're thinking about that from a tax savings, you spend $100 on a meal, only 50% of that is deductible. And then you would multiply whatever your marginal tax rate by that $50. And then that's what your savings would be, basically. So you don't get the full $100, you know, it's half of that. But during COVID, because restaurants were shut down and, you know, in order to stimulate some of that segment of the economy again, 100% deductible. And so that was kind of the rationale there.
Okay. So now let's say I am going to a conference in Barcelona next month. Flight, hotel, and also like meals. Are those write-offs?
So that example was actually like on the CPA exam, and I'm going way back into the well, but that specific example, Barcelona. Okay, so here's where sometimes this gets a little bit tricky. So you're going to Barcelona, you're going to go for a week. The first 3 days are a conference. The last 4 days are vacation, whatever. The vacation part of your trip, no, not deductible. The business part of your trip, which is your conference and the things that are associated with that, yes.
And then obviously things like software, anything that helps to run the business on a daily basis is a write-off expense, correct?
Yep, exactly.